Hello everybody, Esther here. Welcome back to another video. So recently, AngelStudios have come out with a brand new film, Animal Farm, as an adaptation of George Orwell's Animal Farm from 1945. And after seeing it in theaters, I am so pissed off at the way that they did this. They tried to make you sympathize with Joseph Stalin, who, by the way, who killed millions of people. So in this video, I want to explain how Animal Farm teaches us how to not write an adaptation. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and hype this video. This video took a while to make, but it was really fun to do. And without further ado, let's get into it. Before we get into why I think this movie completely fails as an adaptation, we have to go back in time. Animal Farm was written by George Orwell back in 1945 as a political allegory about the Soviet Union and the rise of totalitarianism. The story follows a group of animals overthrowing the abusive owner in hopes of creating a better society, only for the pigs in charge to slowly become just as corrupt as the humans they replaced. The main pig, Napoleon, was meant to be a representation of Joseph Stalin, and this wasn't subtle either. The entire point of the book was to show how power corrupts people and how propaganda manipulates the masses. And this book was written by an agnostic, so the second I heard AngelStudios was adapting this film, a studio known for the family-friendly movies such as David and King of Kings, I knew we were in for a bumpy ride. When the movie starts, we're introduced to Lucky, a young piglet who can read and serves as the audience point of view throughout this film. After Mr. Jones loses the farm, the animals rebel and take over the property themselves, renaming it to Animal Farm, the name of the movie. At first, the movie follows this basic structure of the original story, to know about one's equality among the animals, while the pigs begin organizing society, and Napoleon starts slowly gaining his influence. But then the movie started adding all these modern elements that completely clash with the original tone. Napoleon becomes this tech bro dictator who has expensive sports clothes, uses iPhones, and makes deals with a human businesswoman named Freedom Pilkington. Squealer rewrites the commandments into childish jokes like no drinking naughty juice, ha ha. I'm sorry. And the movie constantly interrupts serious moments with comedy. Fast forward deeper into the movie, and we begin to see the biggest issue with this adaptation. It doesn't understand Neapolitan whatsoever. Napoleon in the original story is supposed to be terrifying. He represents a dictator responsible for manipulation, corruption, and the abuse of power. But in this movie, he's portrayed more like an insecure comic relief character who sometimes acts evil whenever the plot needs him to. And this will become especially obvious whenever the humans laugh at him or manipulate him into business terminology. The movie really tries to make you feel bad for Neapolitan, even though Neapolitan is supposed to be a representation of Joseph Stalin, someone who has killed millions. Like, why the fuck are we trying to make him sympathetic? This becomes even more obvious during the middle portion of the film whenever Frida Pilkington, the human from earlier, starts influencing Napoleon directly. Instead of Napoleon being fully responsible for his greed and corruption, the movie constantly shifts blame away from him and onto the other people around him. This completely weakens him as a villain, because a villain should not feel watered down. A villain should not accidentally feel sensitized because the writers are too scared to portray him evil properly. If they were gonna make an Animal Farm adaptation, they should not make it for kids. Animal Farm is about a really horrific time in history. If you're gonna make an adaptation about such a horrific time in history, at least try to make it accurate for the allegory that you're referencing, not constantly making fart jokes and making the whole thing seem like a joke. The movie wants to be about a serious political story while also being a goofy kids comedy filled with random jokes every 5 seconds. And because of that, none of the emotional moments hit nearly as hard as they should. This becomes painfully obvious near the ending whenever Lucky realizes Napoleon has become corrupt and starts another rebellion against him. The final confrontation happens way too quickly, and then the movie suddenly acts like everything is magically fixed now that the bad pig is gone, because apparently Napoleon loses way too easily. But that completely misses the original point of the book. The ending of Animal Farm was supposed to feel disturbing. The original story showed how corruption creates cycles that repeat themselves over and over again. The pigs became indistinguishable with the humans because power had completely consumed them. But instead, this movie simplifies everything into, yay, the villain is defeated, everything is okay now. Which leads me into probably the biggest reason why I dislike this adaptation so much. Angel Studios itself. Now listen, I'm saying this all as a Christian, by the way. Criticizing this movie or the studio does not certainly make me someone anti-Christian who hates the studio. I have liked Angel Studios for the longest time imaginable, but the marketing and behavior surrounding this movie and studio has been incredibly scummy. At the end of the movie, there were 2 QR code scans, and you could basically scan them for either you liked the movie or you hated the movie. If you scan the QR code that was saying that you hated the movie, it brought you to the page where basically it kept saying that you sympathize with Joseph Stalin, aka Napoleon. Even if that was supposed to be a joke, that is incredibly disgusting to do. And if you wanted to give your feedback, if you voted that you didn't like the movie, they were forcing you to pay. That is incredibly disgusting. Not to mention the fact that Angel has a system called Pay It Forward, where basically you can pay for somebody's ticket to the movie. Well, apparently they have been lying about that. They secretly actually kept all the money to themselves. Now, this allegation is alleged, but what isn't alleged is the fact that The Chosen, a Christian show documenting the life of Jesus Christ, was previously on Angel. However, they actually revoked it from Angel in around late 2022. And why might that be? Well, Angel Studios actually lied to them and was keeping 60% of the profit instead of giving it to them. So if Angel got $15, they would only give the company $4. Editor Esther here. There's actually a really good video made by this guy, which I will link down below if you want to know more about the situation. And the irony is honestly insane. Animal Farm is literally about corruption, propaganda, and organizations betraying the ideals they originally claimed to stand for. Meanwhile, Angel Studios built the entire brand on World different than Hollywood while doing this shit. And that's what makes this adaptation so frustrating. It doesn't just misunderstand the original story, it accidentally becomes the exact warning the original story was trying to tell. By the end, Animal Farms feel like less than a meaningful adaptation and more like a confused corporate product trying to water down one of the most famous political allegories ever written into safe family entertainment. So yeah, I personally really dislike this movie. It felt sanitized, totally confused, and honestly disrespectful to the original message. There's still occasional interesting ideas here and there, but the movie never fully understands what made Animal Farm important in the first place. But yeah, that's my opinion. At the end of the day, if you remove the uncomfortable truth from a cautionary tale, then all you're left with is noise. But yeah, my name is Esther. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!